All right, welcome to another expert interview. They all start the exact same way. I'm always excited for my guests, and today is no exception. I've actually been talking to my wife about this one, going, I can't wait to interview Justin and make him be on the other side of the conversation because he's interviewing people at a rate that I can't keep up with. So, Justin, brother, I always let my guest introduce himself, man. Tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, man, Devin, first of all, honored to be here, man. I appreciate, spending time with you and have, building the relationship we've built over the last not even a year, dude. It's been like 6 months since we've connected. And, we've hung out a number of times, and you were part of my event back in April and all the things in between. But honored to be here. I mean, to introduce myself, I'm a husband, a stepdad to two kids, and podcaster. Started podcasting 9.5 years ago, not knowing what I was doing or what it even was going to become, and got fortunate enough that Inc. magazine listed me as a top 8 podcast every entrepreneur should follow. About 2 years into the journey, 360,000 people read that article, and it changed my trajectory of life, right? Became an entrepreneur. I run a mastermind called Skeleton Key Mastermind and a live event based off of my podcast called Growth Now Summit Live. And then also I'll own a company called Pod Brand where we help podcasters brand their podcasts and also create social media content. So that is who I am in a 3 sentence nutshell, really. But there's so much, it goes so much deeper than that. I'm a little weird. I'm, all those things.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Look, I wanna start where you started. Your first answer, and I know a friend of ours, Brian Bogert, always pushes me down this path too. You always answer with who you are as a person, and you started there. But that's not just because that's the way you want to answer. That's because that is core to what you teach, who you are, and how you mentor your people. Talk to me about that because I think, and you and I've had so many conversations about hustle culture and this like 100-hour a week work ethic, and that's not you, man. So talk to me about why that's so important to you and how you approach that.
Yeah, it's funny. I think the older I get, I'm now 41. As of last month, I'm 41. But the older I get, the more I realize that like life is finite, man. At some point, it's going to end. It could end tomorrow. It could end, hopefully 50 years from now. But I realize that I don't ever want to be on my deathbed and look back and go, all I did was work, right? I was that younger entrepreneur when I first started consuming Gary V content of grind, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. And that was this whole thing, right? I remember like, I think at one point on my cell phone, the lock screen was the Gary V hustle image. And finally I was like, this is not working out for me. I was working, sun up to sundown and then beyond. And I felt like if I wasn't at my computer, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing to be a successful entrepreneur. And honestly, when I let go of the reins and said, you know what, I'm going to begin to become really focused, execute on what I need to execute on every day, and then I'm going to step away from my computer. It became lights out, man, and it gives me time to spend with my wife and my stepkids, and we get to travel, we get to have a good time. And now I'm currently working about 12 to 15 hours a week, making more money than I've ever made before, and making a larger impact than I ever made before because of intention. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we lose intention when we're focused on hustle because we feel like we have to be responding to all the emails. We feel like we have to be on a call all the time. We feel like we need to be doing that or there's no progress. But the reality is, if you sit down and you have an intention to execute, an intention to make an impact, the results will happen for you. And life becomes this fun little thing you get to play with and do what you want on a regular basis.
Mm, okay, we're gonna man, we're gonna go down this path. I like this. Let's talk about success because you said something in there. How do we define success? I really think that might be part of the foundation that's driving people to act certain ways.
Yeah, so a question that I ask every single episode of my podcast, and I've done close to 600 episodes at this point, but what I mean by every single one, for as long as I can remember, I've asked this question. It's a two-part question, and the first part is, what is your definition of success? And the second piece is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself? And for me, my personal definition of success is to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. Right? The intention of, do I want to be at my desk all day? Sure, sometimes I do, and I'll do that. But I get to do it on my terms versus somebody else's terms. So that is my definition of success. But everybody has something unique, right? In my 20s, definition of success was money. In my early 30s, it was about how many eyeballs can I get on me, and now in my 40s, it's about leaving a legacy and making sure that the people who are in my core group of people, they will remember me in such a light that maybe they'll mention my name one day. And for me, like, I think it's an ever evolving thing as we get older. I think it'll change even more, maybe even more into legacy than it is freedom. Um, But yeah, like success is a funny thing, and I honor anybody's definition of success where they're at. But I always like to challenge the idea of, well, maybe you can get there a little bit differently. You know, there's somebody in my mastermind who came in and very, very successful business, and she's an incredible human being. And I was like, well, why do you want to join this mastermind? You seem to be where you're at financially. You seem to be good. You don't need to make more, etc. And she goes, because I have an 18-month-old daughter, and I want to be able to spend more time with her. And so we were able to reorganize everything she ever did within her business. And so some of my favorite posts on social media are when she's at the park with her daughter at 1 p.m. on an idle Wednesday afternoon, right? Because you're able to kind of define that. And it's really about being curious about how can I do this a little bit differently, because the last thing I noticed is that most of these billionaires who work sun up to sundown, they're pretty estranged from their family. And that is definitely something that I don't want, and most people don't want. And so, you have to kind of look at that and be a little bit curious about how you can do it different.
Let's talk about that money drive. I think, and this probably ties into your mastermind, is something I highly respect in what you do, and I see it at your event. I feel it in everything you talk about. I think, we talk about the mentoring and scaling entrepreneurs, right? There's these like money drivers, which makes sense. Like we have to have cash to fuel life, but you don't start there with people. You start somewhere else, and then you reverse engineer how much cash they actually need. Talk to me about that. I think that's a very interesting approach. I want people to hear.
Yeah, I asked the question like, "What's your goal this year financially?" Right, and they'll throw out an idle number, $1 million. Why is it $1 million? Well, because that's the thing, right? Everybody wants that $1 million a year. That's what I'm striving for. And then I say to them, "Great, if that's your goal, wonderful. Let's see how we can do that." But more importantly, what do you want your life to look like? Oh, I want to take 3 vacations a year with my family, one internationally. I want to smoke the best cigars, drink the best whiskey, and knock off on my computer at 2 p.m. Okay, great. Well, you could do that at $400,000 a year. Why is your goal a million? Right? Because I think the goal setting process is a little broken because we've been programmed from society to say, oh, the million or the 10 million or the 100 million or the billion, whatever that number is. But the reality is, are you living to make money or are you living to build a life? And so we start to kind of design that life and we go, great, how can we work that around for you? Now, you've met my mastermind, you spoke to them in Washington, D.C. They come from all different walks of life. Some people are family men and women. Some people are single dudes and single women who can do what they want and they choose to work a lot. So everybody has a different idea of what that happiness or that perfect day looks like. But if we can literally reverse engineer that process and say, well, let's look at this a little bit differently. Cool. Currently, you're working with 50 clients. I'm using basic numbers, 50 clients at $100 a month or whatever. What if you worked with 5 clients at, $5,000 a month? You're making the same amount of money. By the way, that math is way off. You're making the same amount of money, but you're working 1/10 of the time that you were before. And then it's a good, okay, now how do we figure out how we can get there in order to adjust your messaging, adjust your offer, adjust all these things? And that's kind of how we look at it. And that's what I've done in my life. Like I own Pod Brand, which I work about an hour a week in. And the way I've set it up is that no matter how much scale we have, no matter how many designers we need, no matter what, I will always make 60% and I will never work more than about an hour a week, because I designed it that way. That's the only way I would approach it. And so it's just about, again, being that curious person and say, well, is there a different way to do this?
I love that. Let's talk about Pod Brand. You went there, and I want to talk about the intention you set when you launched the company because I think that again, people set the wrong intentions, right? Hey, I want to create another revenue stream. Great, fantastic, totally agree. Do that. But then they don't go further, right? What's my time commitment? How am I going to structure it? How much revenue do I want to pull out of it? What are my splits? Am I going to outsource it? Am I going to like there's so many more things you think about. So sure, I want to talk about the company, but I want to talk more about what was your intention and how did you engineer it to be the way it is?
Yeah, so when it was funny, the idea wasn't even mine. I've used the same designer, and he's amazing. He's great with video and still images and all these things. I've used him for years. I've introduced him to my friends, and they've used him over the years, and I've given him so much business. And he reached out to me one day. He goes, "Justin, you've given me so much business. Why don't we do something together?" And I was like, "All right, well, let me think about it." And I have 2 rules with before I say yes to anything. I ask myself these 2 questions. One, will it be fun? Because if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. And 2, how much time is it going to take me or take away from the things that I want to do? And so I was able to design it in such a way that we've set up some automations and all those things to say, great, I'm going to fuel this with automation. I'll have to hop on a call once in a blue moon here and there and manage the team. And I just do that through Telegram, which is super easy. But the whole thing was he came to me and I saw that the life I was able to help him build to that point. And I said to him, I was like, dude, like how much? So he lives in India. And I said, dude, how much money do you need a month? Like what's the dollar amount for you that you need in order to live the life that you want? Meaning like you get to like do everything you want, you get to buy everything you want. And his response was $1,000 a month. And I was like, okay, cool. We can work with this. Right. And I knew that we could easily manage that with just him as a designer, where he was making that amount per month, if not more. And I said to him, like, dude, let's do that. We'll build this out. And then what I want you to do is build the team under you, because he's connected into that network, and you pay them out of your 40% every month. And he's like, great, let's do it. And so really the intention was, how can I continue to support this incredible human being and his family, while I can make a little bit of income on the side, and continue to not add work to my workload. And so I think it was first that intention of like, how much time is it going to take me, and is it going to be fun? And then obviously you go down the route of like, well, is this in line with my purpose? My purpose is to also help people be seen, heard, and get their message heard in order to change the world. Well, yeah, of course, Podbrand does that, right? We're able to create content that sometimes goes viral. Like we had one client who had 0 followers on TikTok, started an account. He's got over 30,000 followers on TikTok now, just based off the content we created for him. And from that standpoint, I'm like, great, we're making a massive impact with these people's messages. And so for me, it's about staying true to your core values as you're building something out and saying, well, does this fall in line with the things that I'm saying? And am I saying it true to myself? And I think the key piece is, if it becomes not that, are you willing to let it go? And that's where people mess up. They think that like, oh, I've built this and now all these people are relying on me and I'm stressed out. Like you either got to let it go or you got to reorganize. Those are the two options. It's no longer living in this gray area of the life that you didn't want to live. And people lose sight of that when money becomes the thing, because like, oh, more money means more things. I don't care about things. And I think maybe at the core value, that's me. Like I don't need the super fancy car. I don't need all these things. I just want to be able to enjoy my life as I go through it, and not stress whether that if I swipe that credit card, it's going to get rejected or not. And so for me, I think that, being true to those core values, you're able to kind of build that out, but you got to get super clear on that. And most people miss the mark on that.
Talk to me about let's just do a quick plug for Podbrand. What are the service offering? What can people get from you with that company?
Yeah, they can go to podbrand.io and check out the website. We have packages that give them up to 25 videos a month. And then obviously we're able to help them rebrand or brand their podcast right off the bat. And most people miss the mark on that as well. I always like, this is literally like your business card, your website, your everything. If your logo doesn't hit, nobody's clicking play. Like if it looks like your second grader did it, nobody's hitting, no matter how good the content is in that podcast, nobody's listening to it. And so like we help people kind of design that branding that they need in order to be up with the big players in the game.
Awesome, man. I want to circle back and talk legacy because you brought it up a few times, and I always love that conversation of the dash, right? Like what's your dash? What are you going to be known for? So talk to me about that. Like what is your current goal with your legacy and impact you want to have?
Yeah, it hasn't changed for a really long time. I just want to let people know that it doesn't matter where you come from, and it doesn't even matter where you are today. What matters are the choices that you make today to create a better tomorrow for yourself and the people around you. I think so many people look at their past and they allow it to define them, instead of allowing it to build them. Right? Like if you look at my story, I had a 1.7 GPA in high school. My mom was in the middle of a 20-year battle with opioids, and my dad was in jail. If I allowed that to be my narrative my entire life, I wouldn't have been able to build what I have built thus far and continue to build going forward. And so I'm here to let people know that it doesn't matter the choices you've made. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed. It doesn't matter any of those things. What matters are the choices you're going to make today to create a better tomorrow. And that is what I believe my legacy is. It has been for a very long time at this point. And who knows, it could evolve. But at this point, that's what it is. And it's pretty powerful. And I think it's a superpower of mine to see people not in their weaknesses, but in their strengths. And I'm really good at finding that strength within a person, even if they don't see it themselves. That's a gift that I was given since a young age. And look, like it's become the purpose. It's become the legacy I want to leave behind.
Awesome, man. I want to circle back to something else you talked about. You talked about stepping away. at the end of the day, kind of closing your day out and being present with your family. I think that's a big struggle for a lot of people too, is leaving work to work and really segmenting that time. How did you get to a point where you can do that? What tips or advice do you have on that?
Yeah, so you don't need to get to a place before you do it, right? Like again, like this is that whole thing of like, oh, well, once I get to this mark, then I'll be satisfied enough to be able to walk away. The problem with that chase is here's what I promise you. Like if your goal is $1 million and I champion you to get there, please do. You can make a large impact with that amount of money. The second you get there, the first question is going to be, okay, now how do I make 10 million? There's no actual satisfaction in the dollar or in the things. And so, what I do and what I teach my people in my mastermind to do is before I leave my desk for the day, I write my to-do list down for the next day, and I do it in my phone and my notes with a little thing where I can check it off when I'm done. And I sit down at my desk in the morning, and I don't look at social media. I don't mess around on my phone, and I execute on my to-do list. And when it's done, it's done. And some days I'm done an hour after I sit down. Some days I look and I go, I don't really have anything I need to execute today, and I don't do anything because on Fridays I tend not to work. But then, beyond that, like sometimes I'm here till 2 or 3, like leading up to the event, I do longer days because there's a lot more execution, a lot more reaching out, a lot more hopping on calls to get people to the event. But with that being said, like it's this mantra we now have in Skeleton Key Mastermind. Like when people are saying they're overwhelmed, somebody will always chime in. They'll go, "When it's done, it's done." Because there's always more to do. There's always more that you need to get done. There's always going to be that next thing. Oh, let me do this one more thing, or let me do this real quick, or let me do this. And now all of a sudden it is 6:30, and you miss dinner with the family, and you're like, okay, another day where I've made the mistake. And so the mantra of when it's done, it's done. You shut everything down and you get up and you leave your desk and you're done for the day. And that is it's not easy at first, like when you're first doing it, because you're so used to like, okay, one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. But once you get to a point where every day you check off that checklist and in your head you go, when it's done, and you get up and leave, and you realize the freedom you've actually created for yourself as an entrepreneur, which is always the goal in the beginning, right? Yes, I want to make money, but it's the freedom of being my own boss and setting my own schedule. But then all of a sudden you're allowing your clients to set your schedule, and you're a slave to the clock, and you're doing all these things. But the mantra of when it's done is absolutely a game changer. That's what Lisa ended up doing, and she'll post things on social media and talk about how busy she is. And at the end, she goes, "But when it's done, it's done," and she's able to go do those things. She's the one in the mastermind, but she's able to do those things outside of that, that actually give her joy versus chasing that next client.
Love that. There's so many nuggets in there, and I have to hold myself accountable sometimes too, because I'm a doer, right? So I like to like check all the boxes and stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'm done. Like I'm done today. And so I love that when it's done, it's done. That's a great hook. I'm definitely going to use that. Talk to me about your event. You mentioned a few times in that answer. Let's go back in history. Like, why the heck did you even do the first one? And let's talk about what's coming up. I know you've announced some speakers. So give us the legacy of the event and then what you're doing.
Yeah, man. So the first one we ever did was in 2019. It was right after the surge of Inc. magazine, and I was like, oh, cool. Like people are actually listening to me now. Let's see if I can do an event. But the real purpose behind it was I realized I had this opportunity to sit down with some of the biggest names in the industry. Everybody from billionaire entrepreneurs with large followings on social media, as we call them, in quote unquote influencers, to comedians, to professional wrestlers, to NFL Hall of Famers, all these things. And I was like, I have this gift because I got lucky to be placed on a list for Inc. magazine. But how do I take that and give that to everybody else? And that was the idea behind Growth Now Summit Live the first time. That's still the intention at this point, with the added bonus of what I realized was my favorite thing is the community that's built for other people, the connections and seeing people continuing to stay connected beyond that. But it is always like, hey, I never had this opportunity until I was able to build a platform that I understand it's not that easy for most people to do. So let me hand them the keys and say, hey, look, here it is. Here's your opportunity. The coolest part I think about my event is not $5,000 like so many events are these days. It's super easy access to buy a ticket, come hang out in the room, and it's an incredible room of people. And so 2019 was the first one. We all know what happened in 2020, and then couldn't do another one until 2022 because 2021 was a bust. And finally, all of a sudden, 2022, doors open, and I was like, cool, we're back. There's a lot of nightmares with it. Events are very expensive. It didn't execute the way that I thought it was going to. I was stressed out. I wasn't sleeping. It was terrible. And I said to myself, I'm never doing it again. Now, anybody watching this who's done events again, you always get that call back. There's always that call in the back of your head that, hey, do it again, do it again. And so we brought it back in 2025. So this year of April, it feels like it was last year, but it was April of this year. And it was amazing. And obviously you were there, Devin, and it's just an amazing event. And so now we're doing it annually again. We're back in April of next year. But again, it's always the intention of like, how can I give people this opportunity to be in the room with amazing people? And not that, long answer long here. My favorite moment, not the coolest, my favorite moment of the event in April was when I walked out on stage and I go, do me a favor, stand up if you've been a guest on my podcast, have ever spoken on my stage, have ever been a part in that level. And as people may know or not know in this group, it's very hard to get on my podcast. Like people, like I get pitched 40 to 50 times a day. I usually just delete the emails or the messages, all those things. It's people that I truly believe are people who execute, people who are doing big things. And half the room stood up. And that was the first time I realized that was what the word movement meant in the Growth Now movement. And so, going forward, the first two people who bought tickets for 2026 were two of the people who have spoken on my stage not once, but twice. So again, it's going to be an incredible room filled with incredible people. And so it's giving people the permission to show up for themselves and then connecting with amazing people who can help them reach the next level.
I love that. And thanks for the backstory too, a little bit. It's always nice to hear, why it happened. And yes, it's crazy to think that was this year because it does feel like last year. But yeah, great.
Dude, I was
event.
about to say when this started, I go, we've gotten to know each other over these several years, but it's been like 6 months.
Yeah, it does feel like a few years. But man, yeah, just I want to edify your event. I really like the way you put it together. I love the people in the room. The content was phenomenal and it was real content. It was very actionable. You could digest it, you can implement it, and you can engage with the speakers. Like they're in the room, they're at the VIP session. So check it out. Go. Links will be below. Make sure you grab your ticket. Are you hosting the same city, same area?
Yeah, same theater. It's in Westchester, PA, so an easy Uber ride from the Philadelphia airport. An incredible theater. They take care of us super well. The after party, depending on how many people come, the after party and the VIP will be in different places depending on the size of the crowd. But yeah, man, excited about it. Like it's. I always said it was like one of my favorite things I've ever created. And when I stepped away in 2022, there was a hole. And so it's back and we're having a ton of fun. And we've announced 3 of the speakers so far. More to come. But yeah, dude, it's going to be amazing.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to highlight a word you mentioned and let's have a conversation. So you mentioned lucky. I got lucky because I was on the list. Let's talk about where luck fits into success. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I say lucky, and I'll tell the story of how I ended up on the list, which I don't share often because it's convoluted and weird and all these things. But I also understand that luck wouldn't have happened if I didn't put in the work, right? Like, here's the reality of podcasting. 78% of podcasters don't make it past their first 7 episodes. 80% of shows do less than 100 downloads an episode. Now I was well past that when I ended up on the list. I was 2 years in, every week showing up consistently, not necessarily seeing the growth I thought could happen, but also not understanding the actual reality of podcasting, how many people weren't getting the downloads they expected. So it was the consistent work over those 2 years. Now, here's how I ended up on the list. There was a guy who wrote for Inc. magazine or Inc.com, who lived in Philadelphia, and I'm about an hour and 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia. His sister listened to my podcast. So it was like this bizarro thing. He went to his sister and said, "Hey, I have to write this article for Inc. I don't listen to podcasts. What shows should I put on here?" And she's like, "Oh, I know this guy, Justin, who has a podcast that I listen to. You should put him on it." The guy reached out to me and was like, "Yo, dude, I'm working on this list. Can I come I live near Reading, Pennsylvania. He's like, "Can I come to Reading and buy you a drink and we'll talk about it?" I was like, "Yeah." So he drove an hour and 15 minutes to come buy me a drink and he put me on this list. And that changed the game. Luck doesn't happen unless you put in the work, but there are lucky breaks as you go along. And if you're open to them, there are also lucky breaks that I thought were going to happen that became net negative. that didn't work out in my favor, but we don't share those stories, right? Like we're talking like, oh, hey, this what happened. Here's the win, and one of those for every 10 of the failures. But it's about being consistent. It's about showing up. This is in any type of business, whether you're trying to grow a brand, a following, or just trying to get more clients, right? You're going to hear more no's than yeses. But as long as you're consistent enough and you keep showing up for people and your purpose is to give as much as you possibly can, that's how you win. That's how the luck happens. And that's how those opportunities arise for you.
Let's go deeper. I want to talk about connection and being open because I mean, obviously that's very huge to what I'm out here yelling off the mountaintops, but that's very core to what you just explained, right? You had connections that led to an opportunity and you were open to it, right? Which means you were slowing down enough to have your head up to pay attention. So talk to me about one or both of those things and how they've played into your journey or how you see them playing into other people's journeys. So connection and kind of being open to what's out there.
It's everything. I mean, the people that you surround yourself with is the thing that changes the game. One thing that I do is I finish every conversation I have with, let me know how I can support you. And it's a genuine ask. It's not me saying, let me know how I can support you so one day I can have a big ask for you as it comes back around. It's just a genuine thing. It's who I am. I'm a giver. But what I didn't realize at first was that is the thing that created the high level relationships that I have that have created the opportunities that happen. And showing up and all your purposes in showing up is how can I give, how can I support, how can I help this individual get to the next level or with that little knick-knack thing. That's what changes the game. And I'll share the story quick of how when the realization happened. So I was talking to a guy who's got a little following. His name's Ed Milet. Some people may be familiar. Him and I were talking on the phone, and he was supposed to come on the show, and he never signed on to the Zoom. And I email him, I'm like, hey, Ed, what's going on, man? We still doing this interview? And his response was, hey, my internet cut out. Call me. And he gives me his phone number. And I call him. We have a great conversation. We reschedule the interview, all the things. And at the end of the call, I say what I always say, hey, dude, let me know how I can support you. And there's just dead silence on the other side of the phone. I literally thought he hung up. And then he goes, hey, sorry, nobody ever asked me that, so I don't know how to answer that. And there was this aha moment of like, oh, wait, you could build high level relationships with people just by seeing how you can support them because nobody ever tries to support them. They always want something from them. And then that's how I was able to really begin to build this network of people. And like people are always like, how do you get these big names on your show? Well, I get one that dominoes into the next because they liked me and they keep introducing me to people and all these things. And so I think showing up with the intention of giving builds those relationships that then give the opportunity. Right? Like, multiple business opportunities with Brian Bogert because somebody introduced me to him. And then I said, let me know how I can support you. And that dominoes in the next, dominoes into the next. But human connection is the most important, dude. And it's the intention of those specific people that you surround yourself with. I talk about the five types of people you need in your life. And having that intention at all times is the thing that changes the game for me. It literally warp speeds your growth, personally, professionally, everything. If you're literally building those relationships, it might not be with the person you helped, but they're going to remember you forever. And that's going to connect into the next thing, into the next thing. So show up with the intention of helping and supporting without expecting anything in return. I really believe the universe pays you back tenfold. And that's how I've been able to build these great relationships I have.
All right, let's talk about the five types. You teased it, but didn't go there. So we got to go there. So what are the five types? Give us that nugget.
Yeah, so I heard the quote, you're the sum of the five people or the average of the five people you spend the most time with. And I heard it at the age of 19 and I thought it was BS because I'm like, I can't go hang out with 5 millionaires because, when you're 19, that's the ultimate goal. Like, how do I become a millionaire? And so I kind of swept it under the rug. And as I fast forwarded through life, you kept hearing it. It's a very famous quote because it's true. But like I was sweeping it under the rug. And once I finally started to create a little bit of success for myself, I revisited it. And I go, well, who were the five people? Well, they evolved over time. But I realized they were so different from one another. It's like it wasn't like five people doing the same thing. Like even their success level, some of their success levels were lower than success, quote unquote, societal success was lower than mine. But I realized they all served a purpose in my life, kind of like passively. I was doing this. So these are the five people that I think everybody needs to have in their life. If you're watching this on the replay, write this down. So the first, and then actually next to the character that I tell you, write down if you have a person, who that person is. So the first person is your cheerleader. So this is a person who literally, when you get off the phone with them, they make you feel like you could run through a brick wall. Like they make you feel like you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like you call them up and you're like, yo, I think I have this $1 million idea. And the response is, that's brilliant, but it's $1 billion idea, Justin, because you're at the helm, right? Like that person. Second person is your bruiser. This is the person who's willing to push you a little bit, question the things you're doing, asking you, hey, do you think that's the right way to go about it? Somebody, that person who like has the answers, but you're afraid to pick up the phone because you think you're right and you don't want to be told that you're wrong. Like the bruiser is a very, very important piece to the wheel. Third person's your softie. This is the person that you can lean on when things are falling apart, the person you can cry to, the person you can work through those failures with. This is the individual who will listen, have empathy through the process. And then most importantly, the softie's role is to help pick you back up. My wife is my softie. In 2020, I lost 75% of my income overnight. And I remember trying to build up new ideas and it wasn't breaking through. And I'm like, what's going on? Like I was back to making like 19-year-old Justin money. I was like, I need to do something. And I said to my wife, I think I might need to get a job. And she's like, no, you've got this. Like she heard me, she listened, and she's like, no, you've got this. We've got this. We could do this again. And I was able to go build that out again, and obviously in a much better place even than I was in 2020, the beginning of 2020. And so that's obviously a phenomenal person. The fourth person is a mentor. The mentor is somebody who I look a little bit differently than what the normal term mentor means. I look at somebody as a mentor who has something innate inside of them that I want more in myself. So like my mentor is a guy named Fabio Viviani. A lot of people know him from the show Top Chef. He owns restaurants all over the world, makes like $300 million a year, super successful. I don't want to own restaurants. I don't need to make $300 million a year. Like, but he is the biggest giver ever and never asks for anything in return. And he's always there to support and pick people up and give you the shirt off his back. And I want to be more of that. So he's my mentor. The fifth person is a coach. I believe at any given time, you should be financially invested in your future. Whether that coach is in relationships, it's about being in a mastermind, it's about business, it's about wellness, it's about whatever. You should always have a coach. You should be financially invested in your future. And I realized that even before I could financially invest in my future, I had coaches who stepped up in that role because they saw potential in me. And then once I was able to afford something, I started to pay in and realize the dividends of paying in and realizing that, if my back's up against the wall and I'm paying you $20,000 a year, I'm making moves. Like I need to make that $20,000 back and then some, right? And so those are the five people. And I realized looking back at my life, I always had those core five people. And that's what made life so amazing. Like when I won, the wins were better because I celebrated with them. When I failed, it was easier because they helped pick me back up and I was able to brush myself off faster. And it was a life-changing thing for me when I became intentional about it. And then even more importantly, who am I to other people? And how can I be a superpower for others and how to support them? And so those are the five people, man. And like I said, if people can figure out how to have those five people consistently in their life will grow 10x, whether that's in their personal, their professional, whatever, their life will grow 10x.
So we talked about who to have around us. Do you have any thoughts on who not to have around you? Is there a type of person that you should, get rid of the bridge, cut the strings, whatever analogy we want to use? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. You hear this all the time, like, oh, as you're growing, you're gonna have to get rid of your friends, but they actually get rid of themselves. Like it's not meant to be on purpose. Like it's just that's what happens. You grow apart. I hang out with all walks of life, man. Like I've got friends who make $40,000 a year who they're good there. They have no intention of growing. They don't have any of those intentions, but they're really good human beings, right? Like I have two rules. If you want to be my friend, this is it. Two rules. Number one, give more than you take. Like, do not come into my life expecting something. I don't come into your life expecting anything, so I expect that in return. And the second thing is be true to your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And that's it. Like, if you're a good human being, like I'm willing to have you in my circle. Now, will I always spend more time with certain people? Sure. Like I'm going to spend more time with others or with some than others. But no, man, I don't think I have okay, this person's definitely not somebody I want in my life. But if I had to chalk it up, man, somebody who's super negative all the time, somebody who's always got I just can't be around it. And it's not me saying like, oh, well, I have to have a conversation with them and be like, because you're negative, you're no longer in my life. No, you just don't answer their calls. Like if they want to hang out, I'll do that every once in a while, but I'll give you about 30 minutes because that negativity brings me down. And so it's more of an energy feel for me. Like if you're there to lift me up and support me, I'm all game for it because that's what I'm going to do for you. But the person who constantly has that negative side to them, I can't handle that. And then there's been a new one over the last couple years that I've added actually. People who have made politics their personality, they're out. We're not playing that game. So like I just step away. I'll have a cordial conversation, but if it's fully your personality, we're out.
I was on mute and I was sitting there just dying laughing because I agree, man. And I mean, as I'm recording this, obviously it's a very tense moment in that space. I want to talk about your mastermind, Skeleton Key Mastermind, man. The people are amazing. The retreats you host are amazing. And there's not always open spots, but there are open spots currently. So let's talk about it. What's your approach to your mastermind? Who might be a fit?
Yeah, so the mastermind is for 6 and 7 figure earners, people who are looking to grow their impact. So that's the common thread behind all the people within in the group. And whether that impact means you have a service-based business and you want to continue to grow that, or hey, like I've built a successful business, but I want to get on more stages, I want to get on more podcasts, I want to write a book, I want to do those things. These are the people that come together. And our number one rule, and this is really important for people to hear, our number one rule within the Skeleton Key Mastermind, and this has been a theme throughout this whole entire conversation, is give more than you receive. And I know when I get on calls with people who are interested and I say that to them, I just read their body language. And right off the bat, one of the first things I say to them, I know if they're a fit or not. If you're coming from a scarcity mindset, this group is not for you. But we do 2 monthly calls. I bring in a guest mentor once a month that are always super high level. Devin came and hung out with us in person. We do 2 in-persons a year somewhere in the universe. So the doors are currently open. We've got 3 spots available, and we're in New Orleans in November, which is funny. We're just missing each other in New Orleans, but I'll see you in Orlando. But with that being said, we have the doors open if people are interested in looking to grow their impact and grow their income in the process. Potentially fit for them. But we call it the Skeleton Key Mastermind because I believe that people are one door, one introduction, one idea, one motivating thing away from that next big breakthrough. And so this group gives you that opportunity to unlock it. And we've seen so much success already over the last 2.5, 3 years with the mastermind. And I look forward to making an impact with anybody else who wants to join us.
Love it. If you guys are listening to this, I mean, the subtitle of my book is Your One Connection Away from Massive Success in Your Life and Business. If you need a place to lean in, I will advocate for Justin and the people he brings together and how he does what he does. It is authentic. There are no games. It's just real people doing real business, which again is a core to who we are. So, definitely lean into that. Let's talk about Orlando. This will come out here in the next week. So let's tease that. Talk about One Connection. Justin connected me. I'm speaking. I was able to bring in a couple friends who are speaking. Justin's now speaking at the same event, and someone in his mastermind speaking. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Talk to us about that event, and let's tease that.
Yeah, dude. It's called The Thing. It's in Orlando. I've spoken at it about 6 or 7 times. But here's what I'll tell you about the stories behind this event, why it's wild, and why people should show up. So back in 2018, I think it was the first time I spoke at The Thing. So the podcast has gotten its glory. I'm broke as a joke. I figured out how to grow an audience. I didn't know how to make any money. And I got asked to speak at this event where I wasn't getting paid to speak there, and I had to pay my own way to get there. And I had a choice. It was either go speak at this event or pay my rent. And so I decided to go speak at this event, and I met another speaker there named Mike Kim. And we had a drink the one evening, and I won't go into the whole long story, but it was pretty funny. But we had a drink one evening, and I walked away from this event. I think I got a client from it, but that part didn't matter. I went home and made $22,000 in the next 3 weeks, and I haven't looked back ever since. And the reason I want to share that is because the importance of every potential event that's showing itself to you. I think people go, oh, it's just another event. It's just another room full of people who are struggling like me. It's all these things. It's not true. Showing up to an event, creating a relationship, having the right conversations, being open and vulnerable about where you're at will change the game for you no matter what the event is, whether that's The Thing in Orlando, whether that's Growth Now Summit Live in Pennsylvania, whether that's whatever. And so this event, I mean, obviously some of my favorite people are there. You'll be there. A couple of the attendees who go to everyone, a guy named Ian will be there. He's great. Brittany Rogars from my event, who are from my mastermind, who she went from $30,000 a year to $40,000 a month in the last like 18 months, which is mind blowing to me. She'll be presenting. But and then you get, if you buy a certain ticket, it's like you go to Disney World one day, you do all these things. It's fun, man. But it's the importance of showing up, building the relationships, and seeing where it goes. And that's what the thing. I don't even know the dates of it. Sometime in November. I know you know it.
I barely know either, but go below this. We'll conclude the link. There'll be a discount code in there so you can grab a discounted ticket and yes, come hang out with us. And Justin, thanks for that connection, brother. I'm excited to hang out with you there and share the stage and add value. That'll be exciting. I want to talk about however you want to answer the question, right? You've interviewed 600 amazing people and amazing humans. What stands out, man? Like what in the interviews, either people or themes or takeaways, however you want to answer it, what stands out?
I'm so glad you didn't ask me who my favorite guest was. Like that's the most exhausting question ever because I can't answer that publicly. I don't even know if I have a favorite guest. But there's a couple things. So the first thing that stands out is like, oh, what's the common thread behind all these successful people? Now I mentioned the question that I ask every single person, which is definition of success, three things you do every single day. I realized the common thread was in the three things they do every single day. And it's all things to fill their cup, to serve themselves, to make sure that they can operate at such a high level so they can serve their people at such a high level. Because the reality is you can't pour from an empty cup. And this is what I was doing so early on in entrepreneurship. I was literally running dry, man. Like I had nothing to give, even though I was trying to give more and more and more because I'm an impact driven entrepreneur. And I was like, this isn't working. And so I had to go back and think about like, what are they doing differently than me? And that's the only piece that I could find, which is a common thread. And so, now I have four non-negotiables every day that I make sure I'm filling my cup with. And I realize that like if I'm not doing these four things, like I'm drained, I'm dead. That is the common theme. That's the huge takeaway. Serve yourself first. I always say that the most selfless thing you can do is to be selfish. Take that time for yourself. Move your body, meditate, pray, whatever your thing is, do your thing every single day. Make it a non-negotiable. Fill your cup. And then the second thing is, man, I think the huge takeaway of like how many people that are at the top are givers. Like it's so amazing to see it at such a high level that not I would say 75% of the people that I've interviewed at super high levels are massive givers. And I'll give a real quick story. So there's a guy named, I mentioned him earlier. He's my mentor. His name's Fabio Viviani. I saw him speak at an event years ago. And I remember going to the event and I was like, who the hell cares about a chef? Like, I was like, why is this guy speaking at this event? Like, I don't get it. And so I actually stole this idea from this event. They don't tell you the order in which the speakers are speaking. So you have to be in the room. So if you're showing up for one speaker, you'd be there at 2 p.m. on that day so you can see the one speaker and then not be in the room. So I was in the room when he came on the stage. And after he spoke, I turned to my friend who was at the event with me and I was like, I need to be friends with that guy. A year later, he was on the podcast. We hit it off. At the end of our conversation, he goes, hey, who do you want to interview? I was so caught off guard by the question because I wasn't used to somebody at that high of a level to ask me that. I was like, I don't know. And he goes, I'll introduce you to some people. He's like, do you know Andy Frisella? I'll introduce you. You know this person. And he just went down the list, reality TV stars and massive entrepreneurs and all these things. He ended up writing 50 individual emails. He did it because he's Italian and he types how he talks. 50 individual emails introducing me to 50 people at the same time that the Inc. magazine article was hitting. So you're talking about perfect timing, right? So the Inc. magazine hits, and all of a sudden I have guys like Andy Frisella on and Justin Wren and all these big names. And I was like, that's incredible. Like, wow. That was a huge moment personally for me that I was like, this is just so crazy. Like, I can't believe that somebody thought I was good enough of an interviewer to trust me with these high level people and then write 50 individual emails. Like that's crazy. And then a fun aside to me is I got to interview Kurt Angle, which like 13-year-old Justin was through the roof. Like couldn't believe it. Like, holy crap, this, I get to sit down and interview this guy. So there's a ton of moments that I can mention, but the common threads of being givers and, being selfish in order to be selfless, that's the biggest takeaway.
Love it, man. We covered a lot of ground. What did we miss? Is there anything that's on your heart or head that you want to talk about?
No, dude, I just appreciate you and like you talk about the art of giving, man. You've hit it on the head. Like you're somebody who embodies it, which I think that's why you and I hit it off so well right off the bat. So thank you so much for having me do this, and thank you for your community for watching and listening and paying attention, dude. I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you. Talk to us about how we connect with you. Obviously, we've hit different companies, different things. We'll include the event we're speaking at. We'll include links to your event, links to your podcast. What else should we be linking to? How can people connect with you?
Yeah, Instagram's best. That's where I spend the most time. So at Justin T Shank is my username there. You can look how to spell my last name. It's not nobody ever gets it right, but it's in the show notes, I'm sure. And then beyond that, man, I'd love to see everybody in your community come to Growth Now Summit Live. That's a huge one for me. I want to sell this theater out this time. It's going to be filled with incredible human beings, incredible entrepreneurs, incredible forward thinkers. So the tickets for that are growthnowsummit.com. They can grab their tickets. Like I said, super affordable. I think right at this moment, as we're talking, ticket prices are $177 for general admission and $277 for VIP, and we only have 22 VIP left. So go grab your tickets, come hang out with us because I know you bring incredible people together. So if the ACES community could be there, it'd be a game changer.
Love it, brother. Hey, thank you for your time, your wisdom. I appreciate you. I know everyone listening to this is probably going to have to go back and re-listen to a couple of moments. There's a lot of golden nuggets. So thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Dude, thank you.